It looks like Facebook might have kicked off on its own this week. For no.
Like it's supposed to.
Yep. All right. I think we are up on everything. Let me check Facebook. It's to facing.
Ooh, it says we're round 92.
I edited that again. Like we've been around 92 on Facebook now for 3 days. And
Are we?
Someone last week said nobody wanted to report it.
ah, good. All right. Well, that's how you know. Yeah, it says live. It says around 94 right here.
Okay, great. All right, welcome everybody to the 034 Motorsport live chat, Platinum Hour. Let's see. As always, I'm Shadzi, and this is Nate Stewart. I'm the CEO of the company. Nate's the head of engineering and all things software, as I always say.
Yep.
We are here to answer all your questions that you submit. We'll do our best to get to them. We have a lot from last week and submitted since, because people have been submitting questions during the week, which is great. We take a no BS approach to responding to questions. Happy to tackle any controversial topics you'd like. If you're angry at us or mad at something we've done, please let us know so we can do our best to correct it. If you love us, thank you.
There's no better place to ask for some sort of correction than right here.
Yeah. And if you love us, please just fill the comments feed with that too. We can never get enough of that. So, all right. So let's see. I'm going to we're going to start just to go through some of last week's really quickly just to get them in. Someone asked, I have a Carbnlabs downpipe which offers no check engine light. This is a quote, no check engine light. This is accomplished by having essentially a built-in O2 spacer. Can I run this with your B9 3.0 T tuning? I mean, we'd recommend not doing it on stage 2. You would need it on stage 1.
I guess the question is like, I mean, stage 2 is what we would. Likely you would have to run it on if you want the mapping to be correct, if it's an actual high flow catalyst.
But we typically tell people not to put spacers in.
We do. This is the problem. This is I mean, but it's going to be the same problem with stage 1 or stage 2.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you can do it.
Mapping will be closer in stage 2 from a turbo.
This is a weird question because if you're running downpipes, you should not be running stage 1. If you're running stage 2, which is 4 downpipes, then there is no check engine light. Yeah. So I don't understand the question.
It's a product that's.
I think the question is confused. Yeah. So with stage 2, there is no check engine light concern. Stage 2 is an off-road racing file, and in the software, the O2 is not.
I think the accomplishment here is to try and run a stage 1 or stock software with get around the whole thing.
No, don't do that.
It's not.
This situation, which we've seen with a few customers, is that they were running this with a other tuner, and now they want to switch to us. They would need to know if they want to change, if they have to change the hardware to a color.
I mean, we haven't tested this combo, but it'll probably work just fine on stage 2. Is what we would recommend you run.
Well, you should not run it on stage 1.
No,
stage 1 is for factory cats. Yeah. Yes, you can run this, although we haven't tested Carbnlabs downpipes. And again, you don't need a spacer with stage 2. Check engine light is not a concern. B9 3.0 T turbo inlet release date. I don't know that off the top of my head. We don't have a release date, but it's coming soon. I know we have a cast sample prototype here, not a prototype, but a first article, and they are in manufacturing right now. Can you explain the physics behind why your rear sway bar for the B9 platform reduces understeer, and also why the front strut brace is worse than understeer?
Front strut brace is.
Well, let me address one thing real quick. The front strut brace does not worsen understeer. I don't know where that idea came from. The front strut brace's job is to more rigidly support the front suspension so that front suspension alignment and geometry does not change as cornering forces act on the frame of the car. So under no circumstances does it really change the way your car handles, except it just ensures that your alignment settings, specifically your camber caster settings as the car loads up, the strut towers don't move around and flex. So what happens is if you have a certain amount of camber and you go into a corner and then that strut tower flexes, you're now undoing that camber and you're changing the alignment, and you don't want that. So that change in alignment could result in more understeer. But
it would be
not likely.
It would be the opposite though.
Definitely it would.
You know, when you load it up, you roll and you know, take it to the extreme. You can picture the two struts without a brace in there at all. They're going to want to push, you know, in the direction the tires are loading them up, which is going to basically give you a bunch of positive bad camber on the loaded up wheel.
Yeah, so not having the strut brace would increase your understeer.
It could increase your understeer, yeah. It taken to an extreme level.
But the way we design and engineer our strut braces and test them, they improve the handling.
Yeah, it should help everything stay locked in.
As far as the physics behind sway bars is, you know, forces act in proportion to the mass. And so on a vehicle, if you have the weight on the front of the car, then the forces acting on the front of the car will be much higher than the back because there's more mass up front. This is similar to why a cannonball does a lot more damage than BB or whatever, because there's more mass. Now, what sway bars, one of the main things that sway bars do is they control how the weight transfers between the front and rear of the car. And so typically when a car pushes, it's because it has weight in the front of the car and there's weight transfer to the front of the car when the car is cornering. So what a rear sway bar will do is stabilize the attitude of the car in a way that keeps more of the weight in the back of the car. So that allows the centripetal or lateral forces to act on more on the back of the car, which means the car doesn't just push. We adjust that weight transfer through the stiffness and thickness and wall thickness of the bars, and so typically we're stiffening up the rear to keep more of the weight in the rear to take that weight transfer off the nose of the car.
Well, and it's also not it's that's only under cornering loads too, because it's going to change the way that basically how much pitch is allowed in the rear, you know, and how much roll is going to be.
Yeah, and then there's the roll center
in the rear as well. So, you know, you get to a point where that rear outside tire is going to be doing more work than before, just because that it's counteracting more of that roll force in the body as well. And you get to a point where, you know, that rear tire now is going to be at its limit of adhesion before the fronts, or, you know, closer to where the fronts are. So you're going to get more of a rear action than just, you know, pushing through your front tires.
Yeah.
So yeah, sway bars can be kind of counterintuitive in that the bigger the bar, in theory, kind of like the less traction you have, but it serves a purpose in you know, allowing you to control the rotation and the weight transfer of the car, as Gerard was just saying.
All right, so we're just rapid firing these questions a little bit more than usual. Can you guide what would be the best option, catless, Sport Cat, or OEM modified cat if I want to run stage 2++ on B8 S5? Well, anytime, let's just start. Anytime you're modifying or changing the factory cat, this is now a racing application. So anything that we say is assuming that you're in a sanctioned racing series racing the car. I don't know, Nate, do you have an opinion? I mean, we don't offer a product for this, for the B8, so we can't recommend anything that we do specifically.
Yeah, it's the B8 catalysts, as everybody knows, are not the strongest cats in the world. Maybe it really depends what you're doing. From a horsepower standpoint, they're quite good. You're not leaving much on the table just by swapping out catalysts, headers, high flow cats. So yeah, I mean, it's going to depend on your application, if you can even run a modified catalyst setup. That's going to depend if you're actually racing or not. You know,
I think if you want to make the most power, probably a test pipe option is going to be your best bet in that specific application. If you're just looking to maximize and string out every last bit of power, so and it'll be a much more reliable setup. If I was racing, I would want to run a cat if I didn't need to. How long does it normally take for parts software to come out for a new generation, i.e. B8.5 S3? Apologies if you've been asked this repeatedly. I haven't found a concrete There's no set amount of time, unfortunately. Cracking into the ECU and getting access to it can vary. So if the ECU has already been opened up in the marketplace, then it could be relatively immediate. The tuning calibration process could take anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. And then there's some testing and validation and things like that. But it can go pretty quick once you have access to the file and you can flash it. But in the case of like B9 MG1, it was a good 3 years before that ECU became crackable. And that's why you saw nothing really offered until last year. And now there's a flood of options in the market, including ours, which is the best, by the way. But yeah, there's no indication. So we've for the 8Y or the new Mark 8's what's the Mark 8? What's that?
MQB Evo.
MQB Evo.
It's the 8Y as well.
Yeah, it's also an 8Y. We can't say for sure. We've heard some encouraging things that could mean that maybe there would be tunes available by later this year, but I can't say for sure. So
it's one of those things that's not it'll be done when it's done. It's a black hole, wizard behind the shroud scenes right now.
But there's definitely no set amount of time. On anything.
No.
When will rolling anti-lag and two-step launch control be available for B9 3.0 T? I don't think we have a release date for that.
No. We're working on some stuff right now, though, related to it. So
we'd like to think not too far off in the future. Any way to do an SAI delete file for B8.5 S4 that allows me to delete without codes?
I mean, not anything that we have officially for that. It's.
Okay, I'm trying to do last week's questions first. But can you just put new questions at the top?
That's what we're in new questions already now. Old questions.
There's old stuff.
They've flooded.
No, I guess I'll work from the bottom up then. I was kind of trying to go from the top down, but then you keep adding questions. Go ahead and finish now.
I mean, we don't generally offer specific files to delete components. Can be a nightmare to get in there and get all of that, remove it. Yeah, that's not generally a thing we do.
Yeah, we're probably not going to do that, unfortunately. We have to draw the line somewhere. Any chance you'll have a version of your B9 3.0 T downpipe for the SQ5 sometime? I believe we do have a plan to do that. So no ETAs. So where are the old questions? So you moved them to the submitted old questions? Okay. I didn't know you were doing that. Okay, you should have told me you were doing that. It's just
they're all now.
It's so confusing. Just let me know what you're doing. Will you be tuning 2021 S6 S7 2.9 TT plus 48 volt turbo? Possibly someday.
Yeah, we get questions about this.
We're getting more and more questions about it, but we have no immediate. It's not on our current engineering schedule. It's something we're keeping an eye on. Are you guys ever thinking about doing mass switching like DS1 or EPL? We can and we could. We talk about this all the time. It would take engineering resources away from our current efforts to bring new calibrations and tuning. Currently, you can switch maps with your laptop very quickly and conveniently, even on Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
You could be out and about and still do it. You just have to have a laptop with you.
Yep. And we'll likely be moving to more portable solutions for that. Probably before we would implement ECU level switching, because it's a kind of an unreasonable amount of work for the benefit
of something that you can already do.
That you can do
slightly less.
Yeah. So we understand, not everyone wants to carry a laptop around. We know that. We're working on other solutions. Implementing it within the ECU these days, it's literally like a 30-second flash or switch, depending on what you're using. So
you can already switch maps. You just have to use your laptop. But I know people coming from the EPL world, that like when we released B9, that was a big deal. People said they wouldn't buy our tune but it turns out we had the best tune, and so they bought it anyways. And that's really our focus is to keep bringing forward the best tuning. Making map switching more convenient doesn't really help us do that, because you can already switch maps.
Yeah, and I mean we're that has to be implemented at a ECU. You know, every iteration of the ECU and in every code base, you've got to set it up, and it takes quite a bit of effort, and then to try and make it the same method across all of our different calibrations, be it CMOS, Bosch, whatever it is. It's a bunch of work, and I feel like that amount of work and effort detracts from just working on the calibration features that actually make.
I think ultimately people want the best tune. That's where we're focused. Along with the new supercharger, will 034 be working with Precision Racing on the MPI system at 2K for capability of full E85? We're not sure. We're looking into some options for that.
Yeah,
we're not convinced that MPI is the best solution.
And I mean,
for the B8,
so there was actually some chatter this weekend about it. There were some people asking why nobody was talking about it at this point, or nobody was running it. And it's becoming more and more known that it's not easy to implement a MPI system, especially when you're completely external to the ECU. And that's all of the solutions out there right now don't interact with the ECU properly at all. So it's very kind of kludgy to try and tune around a fueling system that's just living its life outside of ECU controls. And I think a lot of people are realizing that it's a very difficult thing to do in a refined way that's going to drive transparent to the.
We're not against it, and I think Precision's good at machining.
The hardware all looks great.
And they came up with the hardware, which is fine, but it requires tune.
We've been beating this drum since the beginning. Is like you really got to do it at the ECU level. The one control unit that is dealing with your fuel and spark, it needs to know what fuel and spark is going on. So it should be done within the ECU to either integrate with or drive the MPI stuff directly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's keep cracking through these. How much camber do you start to consider too much for street use? I would say generally above like 1.5 degrees is gonna cause accelerated tire wear in a way that you may not like on a street-driven car. Now, if your whole purpose is to go out and bomb through canyons and you drive the car with a limited number of miles.
Yeah, if you're currently wearing the outside of your tires a ton more than your insides because the way you drive, you can add more camber to your
But if you're gonna run 2 degrees of camber and sit on the freeway for 3 hours at a time, you're just gonna wear out your tires. So generally like 0.5 degree to 1 degree is really nice on the street and still doesn't wear your tires too much.
Yeah, it's a tough question to broadly answer too, because it depends greatly on like what tires, how wide are your tires, what are your other suspension setups, camber, caster, and toe change.
How you drive is big. I mean, if you're turning a lot of the time, like you would be on track, then it's gonna help your tire wear. But generally on the street, you're just stuck going straight for long periods of time, and that's you can most of our camber options are adjustable. Our fixed camber mounts aren't, but they offer a pretty modest amount, like less than 100 degrees.
Yeah,
and we run those on a lot of street cars. Tires will wear out faster, but in a pretty acceptable way. Will there be rolling anti-lag for the B9 RS5? There will be. We don't have a date.
Yeah, this is tied into the other question we had earlier about the advanced launch. So we'll be doing more of that.
On B8.5 S5 3.0T, the high pressure fuel pump internals is all that's needed to run E40 over 93.
So that's all we list in our required hardware. Just trying to see if there's more to that question, but that's it. So as long as your in-tank pump is up to snuff. So some in-tank pumps these days are getting long in the tooth and aren't flowing what they should be.
Can you at least hint at power levels for hybrid turbo B9 3.0T? I don't know. Do you want to?
I don't have numbers off the top of my head.
They're obviously a lot higher than stock turbo. We will be releasing information.
You'll see all the numbers.
Dynamic Plus B8.5 S5 lowering springs. I'm not sure we have plans to do those. If there's a lot of demand out there, we would. I think we've considered them several times, but will there be a crackle delete file to remove crackles from dynamic mode on B9 3.0T?
From dynamic mode? I mean, you can set up the you can set up your custom mode. I think that'll basically get around all that.
But
you can set your well, no, your individual mode.
But you would do engine and comfort,
engine and comfort,
and then the rest of the car would be
dynamic. Yeah,
you'd have to do that individual. We don't currently have plans to remove crackles from dynamic mode across the board.
Yeah.
Generally, that's the dynamic mode is the mode that you'd want crackles. So, do you have forged internals for the 3.0T B8? Trying to go 500 wheel and still keep it as a daily. I will say that we are working on forged rods for that motor. I don't think we're going to do pistons. I really don't think they're necessary. People aren't maxing out their factory forged pistons, but the rods do bend and can bend. So keep an eye out for something coming for those. Man, Brett's killing me over there.
I know. Speaking of in-tank fuel pump swaps.
Yeah, we have our service department is over there, and there's like freaking gas explosion. It's like,
don't say explosion. There's some
it's an explosion of gas in here. Anything learned from the Mark 8 that we can apply to the Mark 7 and other older MQB platforms? I don't think so.
I think it goes the other way right now still. I mean, everything we learned from the Mark 7 applies greatly to the Mark 8.
MQB Evo is just that. It's an evolution, and it could have been called MQB marginal incremental
0.75 or something. Yeah. I mean, it's nothing at like a mechanical level where like, they fixed this thing that I've seen in there at all. The overall, like the tech package is the biggest thing. And that's, your lane assist, your radar cruise, all that stuff is worlds better than Mark 7.
But there was nothing wrong with the Mark 7 chassis.
No.
So they kept it.
I mean, it's really similar.
Okay, let's move on. Let's get into this week's questions.
The whole yellow bars.
I don't know. I mean, there was. I mean, I think we can recognize that IE went to the track, and on a TTE 710 they ran a 9.8 at 140.
Yeah.
We have previously on a test prototype file we ran a 10.1 at 137 on the street with very little prep. So, I think it's nice that they did that. We will definitely beat that time easily soon with our own stage 3 tuning. I do believe our stage 3 tuning will run faster than IE, but it's all going to be up to who can run the fastest time and do it. We will be engaging in our own effort over the next few weeks. So the whole B9 tuning wars is far from over. It's
hot and heavy.
It's a twinkle in someone's eye right now, and there's a lot more to come. I'll just say, we keep an eye on what IE does, but we don't really obsess about it. And we're here the way we think about things internally is we're really like to compete against ourselves, and we're always trying to push the bar forward, regardless of what anyone else is doing. And so you will see that we often beat our own records, and that's because we're always pushing.
We're not just going to sit back like, now we got to do some work. Somebody ran faster. No, we're always pushing.
We want to push the limit because we know everyone else out there it's a moving target, right? Like trying to be the best, you don't just become the best and then just kick back. That's how you become the worst. So you just keep pushing forward, and that's what we'll be doing. But it is nice to have some competition out there and to have someone pushing the envelope, and it motivates us too.
Well, and it keeps the market, the enthusiasts, just engaged and excited about it.
Yeah. Why is the power output difference so big between stage 191 and stage 193 on B9 S4 S5? So we list B9 is 397 on 91, on 93 it's 431 with more torque. And I mean, that's not a big difference. You're talking about another 35 horsepower for a much better, more higher octane fuel. And then there's certainly not more torque. And this is simply the result of being able to run more ignition timing at the torque peak.
Yeah.
which 91 is kind of worst case scenario for a high performance fuel. So this isn't a big difference. This is the kind of difference you typically see between 91 and 93. You could go back and do a function of percentage with other tunes and calibrations, and you'll see that should hold up. Now, if 93 made like 500 horsepower and 91 only made, that would be like a 20% difference.
Right.
You're not going to see that with 93. You see that more with E85. But 91 is particularly bad, and 93 it's only 2 octane points higher, but typically the performance you see is even higher, because there's 91 has all kinds of other stuff in it other than the octane that hurts its detonation resistance.
Yeah, you'd think it would only be just two octane points, but it can. It's proven to be the stuff at the pump is not.
Yeah.
Just that.
The octane ratings doesn't fully correlate to the ignition detonation performance of the fuel. It's generally a good indicator, but it's not all of it.
Yeah. It's not a one-to-one.
Right. What type of future development options can we expect from the Stage 2 TCU tune for S4, S5, B9?
We've got a bunch more coming.
It's pretty much all the same type of features
Yes.
that you see already.
5-point stuff. But Stage 2, S4, S5. That's all.
We already have Stage.
We already have that. It's. The advanced launch stuff integrates a bit, but with the ZF transmission, it's a little different.
I figured this was a question about RS5.
That's why I had to reread it. I thought it was RS5. It's going to be.
We will continue developing and evolving that file, but I don't know.
One thing you will see is we're going to have TCU files that are also more tailored to the upcoming turbo releases we'll have. So
yes.
We're going to have matched files to best optimize the given turbo setup. So you'll see that for sure. And then we'll be making our refinements and adjustments with feedback and testing. So.
All right, so it says, are the control arms that you guys make better than the stock RS5 control arm and etc.? I'm assuming this is B8. When it comes to physical parts upgrades that are universal for all models. So our control arms are basically factory arms, but we modify the bushings. And so they are stiffer rubber than factory. And the factory bushings actually have fluid in them. So it means there's big voids inside the mount, and they're filled with this hydraulic oil. So we get rid of all that, and it's solid rubber all the way through. So it's
where it can be. You can't just make a brick of rubber there.
No, we still have voids in there, but the fluid is now filled solidly. So they're going to be better performing, much longer lasting, a lot cheaper. I think to outfit your car with factory arms is probably like $2 or $3 grand.
Yeah, I think we're like a quarter of that.
We're like $850 now, and then there's some aftermarket stuff out there. You're going to get some OE replacement type quality. It's not going to be a performance option. What is an acceptable NVH level for 034 Dynac Plus camber mounts? Strut bearing and lock collar kit was installed, but still has clunking over bumps. I don't know what you mean by clunking. So if clunking means there's stuff that's loose, that's not good.
Yeah,
there should be no clunking. You will feel impacts, more acutely. When you hit a speed bump or a bump, the energy is going to transfer through into the passenger compartments with less damping or attenuation.
Yep.
And it's going to be you're going to feel things.
You're going to feel things.
It's not if it's clunking and loose, then that's bad. So NVH is a very subjective thing. We struggle with it as far as like setting customer expectations, and even when customers talk about it in our service department, people will come in and say something clunking. It's not. It's more of like thud or a bump that goes through the car.
Sharper,
almost like a shock that goes through the car, but nothing's wrong or loose.
I will say that front strut mounts are notoriously difficult to get torqued correctly.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people struggle with getting a proper amount of torque on.
This is going back to the 70s.
All way back, yeah.
This is not a new problem.
Because you've got to kind of know how to get that torqued. You've got to have an internal tool that holds the strut. So that assembly in particular is chronically left under torqued on many installations. So that's something to certainly look for. That will certainly result in clunking and noises that you don't.
Yeah, so that's it. The first thing is go through your installation and make sure everything's installed correctly, and go from there. Loose nuts on your strut mounts is not NVH.
Yeah, no, yeah, but they shouldn't. Yeah, they shouldn't be clunking. It'll be a sharpness, maybe more of a thud when you hear things.
Yeah,
there are instances, I guess, where you get coil binding in the springs that you're going to hear a lot more with a stiffer mount. But again, that's yeah.
All right, I have a question about Bosch 980cc injectors. Do we even sell these?
Yeah, that's like the TTRS MPI upgrade kit.
Okay, yes. Okay. From what I understand, Bosch sorts injectors in batches based on min and max flow rates. This is indicated with different colored paint markings. Should all the colors in a set match? I honestly don't know a lot about this, so I'm not going to say too much.
Yeah, I don't. I would have to.
I'd have to go do some research on this.
I would be very surprised if they were that. Yeah, everything we've tested, we've flown a bunch of these. They've all come back very close to each other.
Yeah, I don't know.
As far as matched sets, anything we've ever ordered from Bosch has not been sold as a set. Because
that's why I'm saying
they're sets. They don't sell a 5-cylinder kit. They're not going to sell an 8-cylinder kit.
I mean, I've been selling injectors for 20 years, and this is the first time I've heard of something like this. So
yeah,
that's why I'm hesitant to say that it does or doesn't exist.
I mean, they might be color coded for lots and tracking. I don't know why Bosch would
say
this injector.
The older EV14 Bosch, like 500cc, I sent thousands of those out and had them float, and they were like within a cc apart. I mean, they have this really precision manufactured nozzle, and then if you take that nozzle off, the pintle valve also is extremely like within 1%.
They're very
so they have this down to a science as far as making these. I can't imagine there would be that much variation that would require this kind of marking thing. But I'd have to look into it.
Yeah,
but I've never heard of it.
I haven't either. I don't know if anybody's done A/B testing with brand new different sets of different colors to try and validate that. But
yeah. Have you heard of the vacuum pump failing on a 3.0T and the key breaking off and going in the motor and damaging the cam?
I have not.
I haven't heard of that either, but anything's possible.
Yeah, it's mechanical spinning parts. Lots of terrible things can happen, but specifically that I haven't heard of that as an Achilles heel one anyway.
Okay. Any news on Rod's B8 S4?
We just talked
about that. We don't have a release date, but they're coming. Will your J-hook rotors wear down OEM pads faster than drilled rotors? I don't believe it would wear them faster. I don't think we've observed any kind of pad wearing problem with the J-hooks. The J-hooks are generally, or J-slot or whatever, better than slots, because the slots are, they're completely, it's kind of like a carrot peeler, as the pad goes over it. But this kind of hook shaped, is easier on the pad. So we haven't observed any.
Yeah, it keeps the amount of pad pressure. I guess the relieved pad pressure, right, where you're over that missing part of the rotor, is much more minimized on these in a pattern across the pad as it sweeps by. So you get much less pad deflection into that groove.
Yeah. Generally, I wouldn't say that slots, hooks, or drilled causes accelerated pad wear. What causes accelerated pad wear is getting the pads really hot, driving the shit out of the car. That will wear your pads really fast. Yeah.
Or anytime you're outside of your pad's temperature range, because you can get like track pads.
Pads.
If you drive them on the street a bunch, you're just going to grind away both the pads and the rotors.
Yeah. Like those cobalt pads we used to. If you just drove them for a few days on the street, they would wear the rotor and the pads away really quickly. So no, these are going to be very good on the car, very reliable, and we've tried to hurt these on track. Yeah, I'm really happy with this product. It's selling well. The feedback from customers is great. I don't think we've had any returns or
issue with
not even a single complaint, and we've sold thousands of these. So really happy with the product. Will there ever be flex fuel tune for B9 or switching tunes with just pushing certain buttons in the car? we are not ruling it out. We don't currently have a release date for that, but like we were talking about earlier, flex fuel, map switching. These take engineering effort away from developing tuning.
Yeah, personally, on this point, personally, I would much prefer a fixed map for a given octane that's in the motor. It's a much more deliberate process to load up a file and have a fixed octane on it versus getting in there, setting your map to something and going. You've got to,
you're then like hoping that it's optimized at every octane point.
There's that too, but we've also seen people that didn't necessarily know which map they had it in. This is on some other calibrations back in the day that had map switching. They were running on the wrong map. It's an easier path to user error or unknown map state, where it may not be like reporting to you exactly what map you're in, or you're going to remember what map slot is what octane. So it's prone to more error that I've found.
But with that said, it's something we'd like to do. We'd consider doing it. We just have to balance it out with actual tuning.
I'd say it would be more of a flex fuel approach if we were going to do it like that. But yeah,
I mean, here's the reality, right? It's like, would you rather have flex fuel or big turbo tune?
Right now, yeah.
Those are both major efforts, engineering efforts, and a month from now we could come out and say, congratulations, you have the same tune, your car's not any faster, you can't upgrade the turbo, but you can switch maps, which you can already do, but you can just do it a lot quicker. That's not the message that we want to come out with. We want to come out and say, hey, you can still switch your maps in a minute or two, assuming that you'd want to do it. Even like, I don't know how many people who are obsessed with map switching, how often they even switch maps. But you could still switch maps and your car can go like a second faster in the quarter mile and make another 200 horsepower. That's that's more the opportunity we're looking to cultivate with customers. How long should OEM RS3 rotors last? Is it necessary to replace rotors when doing a pad change? No. Rotors should last a lot longer than pads. Rotors are pretty easy. Our rotors have a wear indicator right on them. So it tells you the specs right here. I don't know if factory rotors do or not.
It's usually listed. Not on them. Actually, some do. I know some do.
Yeah. Some do. But regardless, it's easily obtainable information. And you can get some calipers and measure your rotors every time you change your pads. They should not wear out that quickly unless you're on track. So track driving, track driving will wear out rotors very quickly, like in a couple days.
And a lot of it depends on use and cool down. Yeah. You can kill rotors quickly, or any brake component quickly, if you're abusing it and or not taking care of it when you come off track.
But I'd say, generally speaking, on a street car, at least 10, 20,000 miles or more. And there's the possibility of warping the rotor or something like that, which is different. But with our rotors, we sell the rings separately from the hats, and it's really easy to just swap the rings out when you need to replace rotors. But track pads wear rotors out very quickly.
Yeah.
I have a Miltech Catback B8 S4. A bit worried about the cats. As used the car on odd track day, will going test bikes make it sound trash.
The B8's tough to make sound to get a decent sound out of it.
This person's obviously British, and yes,
yeah.
It will sound like the.
There's a lot of YouTube videos out there you can see of various people that have a lot of different exhaust combinations trying to kind of tame the one.
There's a lot of opinions on that.
So yeah, it's tough. It's a tough motor to get pleasant sounds out of when you're removing the factory catalyst.
I keep hearing altitude density getting mentioned. I don't understand it. Apparently is why some cars go lean. Surely the ECU can be adjusted on far.
Yeah, density altitude is exactly what it sounds like. It's how dense the air is for the conditions your engine is running at the time. So it usually correlates with altitude.
It's expressed as an altitude.
That's why people call it density altitude, because as you go up in altitude, the density of the air is going to be less.
Yeah, and it can be plus or minus.
There's a standard where basically a DA of 0 would ideally be at sea level at normal, all normalized conditions.
There's apparently some thread or discussion out there that we've heard of several times that dense air causes the motors to go lean, which causes the rings to seize.
There's all something, but no, the ECU.
We've addressed that in a previous.
Yeah, the ECU on all of these motors, all of these engines we're talking about these days, have a number of sensors that take into account all of the atmospheric conditions that it's running in. So it's got a barometer on the ECU, so it knows the atmospheric pressure. It's got ambient air temperature as a calculation. It more importantly has multiple usually intake temperature sensors to know exactly what the air temperature getting into the motor is. So, I mean, all of that already should be accounted for. And on the 3-liter in particular, DA is really interesting because the delta of pressure or temperature is very small compared to what you see going across the supercharger itself. So your air temperature increase is huge going across that supercharger. So starting just from a cold pole to a warm pole on any given day is going to be probably a bigger change than it is a cold DA or better DA day versus a higher altitude DA day. So
generally, the biggest thing that happens when the DA drops is your car gets faster.
Yeah, and you've got more air getting into the cylinders.
We don't have any evidence that any cars are blowing up on our tuning based on the DA. We see our customers running their fastest times in the winter when DAs are extremely advantageous for making power.
Yep.
The DA is just a free way to get more fuel into your motor. Yeah. And ultimately, oxygen is what burns inside these motors. Oxygen is part of the combustion process.
Yep.
The more oxygen you can get in there, as long as you can add the fuel, you can make more power.
So, I mean, there are a lot of B8s these days that are on pretty strung out setups. There's also that. They're monster pulleys and maybe on the ragged edge of this and that, but DA in and of itself is.
But I think those people know what DA is.
I would hope so, but I don't know. You ask, there's threads that keep coming up still. It's like, hey, what pulley combo should I get? And everybody's like, run this 200 whatever millimeter pulley and an upper and all this stuff.
Yeah, people are doing all kinds of, and they're stacking JB4s.
There's all kinds of terrible combinations and or just advice out there that's maybe not loaded with enough information as to what you need to consider if you're going to go right to the ragged edge of what's capable.
Keep banging through with so many questions. Are you going to release a high pressure fuel pump for the B9 platform? We will. Yep. We're working on it. We don't have an ETA. It's probably not going to be in anytime real soon. Hopefully by the end of the year we'll be something. Which sucks because we're just going to have to tell you guys to go out in the marketplace and find something
right now. Yeah.
Although we're not going to specifically advocate for one specific option on the market, not at this time, but there does appear to be several that are fine. Hey guys, could you shed some light on your B9 S4 intake system, the air filter? I'm curious about dirt and debris using cotton filters. Is there any cause for concern? There's absolutely no cause for concern. Otherwise, we wouldn't sell the product.
We've been running these things for years.
We're not here to be like, yeah, you can run it, but you're probably going to blow up your engine. No, there's no concern. Cotton is a much more durable and long-term material than paper. As such, it can be cleaned repeatedly. So you could possibly use one of our air filters for the lifetime of your vehicle. Certainly 4 or 5 of the factory paper filters. Paper is disposable.
Yeah, we've got cleaning and refresh
sell a cleaning kit. Imagine if my shirt was made from paper. I would only be able to wear one paper shirt per day. And this shirt happens to be made from polyester blend. And other shirts I wear, well, this one here is cotton. And I think I've been wearing either of these shirts for many months. And I wash it using a cleaning kit I bought at the grocery store.
No, we've used these things literally 10 years now, basically on this stuff.
Yeah, I think we came in with this basic design 10 years ago.
Yeah, and it's through every situation you can imagine. We've had very, very good results with it.
Yeah, and I'm joking around a little bit, but the reason why we use cotton filters is because they're durable and long lasting. But based on the density and the layer of the cotton media, so the cotton media, filtering media that we use is a thin layer. And if you just did one thin layer, it might filter like 20 microns, which is still good, but not great. But we can stack layers, and as we stack layers, the filtering resolution gets better and better. So we now are at about a 5 micron. I think we're at 5 microns. And so that offers excellent filtration. That means you don't have abrasive particles above a certain size going inside your motor, which is dust and dirt and things like that are bigger than 5 microns. But because we can tune the layers, and I won't tell you how many layers we used or which media we used, but for example, this question is about B8 or B9. The filter that we use in that particular intake will support easily like 800 horsepower. But filter just as good as the factory filter. And it's because of the cotton construction and how this filter is engineered. That would be a lot harder to do with a paper filter. And what you'd be left with a paper filter is just making it bigger and bigger and bigger so that it could flow. And then you're just going to have to throw it away. So you're left with this like $300 paper filter that you have to throw out twice a year. Anyways, all right. Any possibility on having exhaust valves on the 2.9 TT stay open in dynamic mode?
We're working on that. We'll have an update coming probably for those soon.
Can you make
We've had enough requests at this point.
Can you make the valves open on startup in dynamic mode?
Look at that. Potentially, I'll have to look.
Because it always resets, right?
They always reset in their modes. I don't know. Yeah, we've got. I have to look. The dynamic mode switching is pretty notoriously aggressive to get it back to a normal quiet mode on bag cars.
2020 RS3 with mag ride. Purchase your lowering springs. How essential is it to get the mag ride recalibrated? Not at all. You don't have to.
We specifically don't on. I don't know if we ever have on our in-house. For this reason, because not everybody can.
We've tested it. There's no need to, or there was no difference. And also, does the headlights and ACC need to be recalibrated?
I mean, the headlights shouldn't, because your vehicle should be dropping fairly level.
And the system tracks the height of your car.
Yeah.
So I don't think so. I don't think either of us. And we're not. It's not like we're dumping the car 4 inches.
We certainly haven't had any issues on ours here. And the rake of the vehicle is not changing dramatically. So no, I mean, everything should point in the same direction.
What is the OEM boost gauge actually trying to show us on the B9 3.T? I hear it is not accurate. Well, it's not a boost gauge.
It's not. It's just a line that kind of squiggles back and forth.
I think it's a relative boost level indicator. It's not a gauge. It doesn't show you boost pressure.
Yeah, it's like a ratio of max allowable boost. Is kind of how you could think of it. But
I think for what the factory's intending is no boost, some boost, probably all the boost. Yeah. And that's about what it's telling.
It's not a scientific gauge or instrument in any way, shape, or form, and it's very slow typically.
Why Audi S4 B8.5 Stage 2 Plus and TCU? If you step on gas all the way, sometimes it'll rev to redline and keep hitting the rev limiter and not switch gear unless you let off the gas a bit.
I don't know what calibration combo you might have.
Email tuning at
so we can make sure you're on all the right files. But that sounds like what that normally sounds like is a rev limiter mismatch, where you might have a file that the ECU and or TCU are either too close, or the rev limiter is a little lower on the ECU, and where it'll just bump into that limiter first before it gets to the gear change point.
Hi, I'm just wondering what the differences are between the DQ 250 and DQ 381 dog-bone mount. Are the arms the same?
No, the arms are different.
They're basically the same. It's just dimensionally. Audi made the length of the arm different on various applications, which is why we offer different ones. As far as performance goes, the dog-bone pendulum arm is going to do the same exact thing for both applications. It's just one slightly longer than the other, and some use slightly different bolts.
Yep.
Some use M12 bolts, some use M10.
Yeah, the mounting provision is just in a different place on the bottom of DQ380.
And I think 034 Motorsport, bar none, offers the broadest range of dog-bone mount solutions for just about every application. I think we're missing one, which is
it's like the
8S
VR6 TT. Yeah, 8J VR6 TT.
No, we have 8J TT.
VR6.
Specific.
There's a VR6 manual trans 8JTT.
And it's in engineering development.
We know how to make it. There's like 6 of those cars in the US.
Yep. So, and we sell tons of those Dogman products. I was curious, what are the 3 throttle body options that shows when you get the Stage 2 Plus tune website offers only 1 throttle body?
Yeah, these are we try and provide files for what the market is running out there. So yeah, I believe there's only 2 at this point.
There was 3 at one point.
I think we removed all of
we got
supercharger stuff on the new stuff on the newer calibrations because it was just so troublesome. But what the 3 you would see if there are 3 up there, there's an INA style, which is just a hot dog adapter that goes in between that alters the electrical signal to the throttle body. So that's got a different calibration requirement.
We won't be calling any of our products hot dogs anytime soon.
Whatever it's actually called. Ours, which would be the the APR one, which would be the ultracharger one, which is being phased out just because a lot of people have issues with that combination. So we're trying to steer them more towards the way we're doing the throttle body adaptation, which would be our super duper setup.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just
super duper for a reason.
It's just to help support the market and what's out there. We try and provide calibrations for as much of the market base as we can. We're not trying to shoehorn everyone into just our hardware in these cases.
On B9 2.9 TT, if you switch to the E85 file, do you flash at the gas station after you fill up, or can you drive on a 93 file as long as you don't floor it? So we actually have a video. Our intrepid Nick Mercadante created a piece on our YouTube channel. It's the 034 Uncut YouTube channel. And Nick did an excellent job of walking through the whole process. I would strongly recommend watching that. We don't really need to talk about it.
I would also strongly recommend, we say this every week, is getting a content analyzer so you can
get a content analyzer. You may want to go order one even before you watch it, but you're going to need that. You're going to want that. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just going to be guessing. Shot in the dark. We did that throttle body one.
Oh, yeah.
When will the DQ381 transmission software be available? I don't see it on 03. We were just talking about that.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. We'll have it released hopefully soon. It's just been lingering in some of our calibration queue. We honestly have most all of the software on the server, and you can certainly flash it now. It's in a very good state. There's a couple of little tweaks we want to finish up with it before we release it, but hit us up if you want to know specifically if we have coverage for you.
Someone's asking, why do the C7 and B8 street density mounts, I'm assuming this is 3.0 T, cause vibration at different RPMs from 1.2 to 2K? Well, first off, I would say we offer the most density options of any mount product. So I don't know which mount you're running, but specifically, why are you experiencing more vibration between 1200 RPM and 2000 is this concept known as resonant frequency. And so there is an RPM which creates a frequency resonance. Resonances have expressed measured in terms of frequency, where the mass of your engine and the compliance of the engine's mounting creates a resonance, and a resonance is always, again, at a frequency. So the resonant frequency of the 3.0 T mounted in that frame is probably like 1800 RPM, and that's why you're feeling it in that range. Now, once you go above 2000 RPM, you're above the resonant frequency, and so the motor on its compliant mounting can no longer resonate faster than about 2000 RPM, so you no longer feel it. So the higher you rev away from the resonant frequency, the less you'll feel, and then the lower you go, so say below 1200 at idle, you're not feeling it because there's just not enough energy to excite that resonant frequency. So that's why you feel it, and this is kind of the needle that we're always trying to thread with density mounts is, if you don't feel any vibrations, then it means it's not any stiffer than stock. If we stiffen it up too much, you just feel the vibrations all the time. And so typically where we end up is we will arrive at an acceptable level of vibration at the resonant frequency. And so you'll feel it for a very temporary period. Typically, we make sure that it's not sitting like in the 300 to 3,500 RPM range where you'd be like on the freeway and just like vibrating. But, if it's below 2,000 RPM, that's pretty acceptable. The motor's not real smooth in that range, again, because that's its resonant frequency. But if you want something with less NVH, then I would recommend looking at a softer, lower durometer option. We offer 4 durometers for the B8s, or for the 3.0T. Any update on carb exempt intakes? Yes, I think we have both.
Yeah,
now.
Well,
we definitely have B8.
B8's done. I believe the 2-liter stuff is done too for the NQB 2-liter.
I think last week you emailed.
Yep. No, that was the calibration stuff. That's the calibration stuff.
Okay. The intake should be carb approved. Shoot us an email. We're looking on our website, and we will be including stickers with those.
Yep.
Approved or exempt versions.
Yep. There's actually a similar question to the bottom. I don't know if you can see that yet. Yeah, the tune.
Will having an aftermarket tune cause my car to not pass smog? Okay, so let's just carefully answer this. As far as hooking your car up to an emissions measuring device, there's a very good chance that as long as you have the factory cat in your stage 1, that your car will pass smog.
Well, it depends on who you're tuned with, but we're talking about
034 Motorsport tuning. I mean, if you're on Billy Bob tuning or whatever, we can't say. But specifically talking about our tunes and calibrations, there won't necessarily be any more pollution at the tailpipe. Now, in California, in the past year, smog stations have begun scanning the ECU to see if what's inside the ECU is any different than factory. The technicality of having a different tune will cause you to fail.
Yep.
Again, if you flash back to a stock file, there's absolutely no issue. If you have one of our carb exempt files, like for our 2.0T or B8, then that's in the system. Or if it's flagged, you can show them your carb exempt number, and you will be allowed to pass.
Okay. So you can have, as long as the calibration you're running is a carb exempted, validated, tested calibration that is provided, you have the documentation for it, you will be fine.
Yeah. Now, there's what actually pollutes, and then there's what's regulation, and any change to the vehicle that's not carb exempt is technically illegal.
Yep, they will assume that it's going to fail, until proven otherwise.
But yeah, anyway, so you in California and generally anywhere you want to go smog with a stock file.
That customer specifically has a B8 with our stage 1 too.
Okay, if the 3-liter B8, we have carb exempt.
So that's carb exempt. Just make sure you have the carb exempt file loaded. And then go smog.
You're good to go. Yep. Yeah. There's a form on our website you can fill out. We'll send you then, once we validate that you have indeed flashed that file and that is what you were running, we will get a carb exempt sticker off to you.
Anything new coming for B9 SQ5? We have a really nice sway bar kit that's a month or 2 out. What am I missing?
Inlets.
Oh yeah, the 3.0T inlets, which will work on all 3.0Ts, and we're
sub inserts.
We have rear diff inserts, subframe inserts, so we're not done with the SQ5 yet.
Along with all the turbo stuff now.
Recommended alignment spec for track 2020 TTRS spring 034 mounts and 034 spring.
I feel like it's on the website.
Go to our webpage.
Yeah. Okay.
Which product specific?
Yeah, test.
Okay, go on our fixed camber mount page, and we actually list some recommended alignment specs. Do you guys plan to make body modifications for the B9, like grill spoilers, etc.? No plans currently. That's not really our market. We may eventually, but right now we've got our plates full with lots of product development.
Yeah, just keeping the cosmetic crackles. See, threading that needle and where people want it is proving to be enough of a challenge.
Anyone ever say the 0 through 4 rotors make noise kind of like a flywheel on a mount bike? What's a flywheel on a mount bike? I'm into biking, but I don't.
Maybe they're talking the rotor. I know. I mean, I know my rotors on my mountain bike do make a noise because they're like free. Oh, like a ratcheting.
Oh, like a freewheel on a mountain bike.
I mean, depends on the setup. You might hear a little bit of noise as the pads sweep.
They are a little noisier than stock,
Yeah.
but not like a freewheel on a bike.
I'd say it depends on what stock too. The stock drilled ones, you will certainly hear a zzz when you get on them.
I didn't hear any noise change on the SQ5.
Yeah, it may depend on what pad you're running to. If you have some pads, and depending on the age of the pad, when you install them, we'll have a taper on the pad, on the leading and trailing edge of the pad, which will help alleviate that. If you've got a very square cut pad, you will probably hear more of that.
B8, SQ5 Super Duper for B8. We're working on it.
Oh, for the intake,
yeah. No ETA, but it's coming. Not too far off.
Yeah.
And we're just doing a different hose, basically.
The 12.
Yeah. We good?
Yeah, we're out of time at this point.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We still have a lot of questions left over. Sorry about that, but this is probably more questions than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
See you guys maybe next week.
Yep.
Cheers.